Welcome to another Thursday night Bible study, brought to you as a ministry of SIGBC.
As we continue our contemplation of love, today we're going to be switching just a little bit in our emphasis from the importance of loving God and consequently loving one another to about a 3-week study on the importance of spurring one another on to love and good works. And so we're going to be studying Hebrews chapter 10, verse 22 through 27, and verse 36 through 39 on how we are supposed to focus on helping other people to live out the love that God desires them to live out. It's natural for people to love, but primarily to love the world and to love self. And so John warns us that we should love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. If anyone love the world, the love of the Father is not in them. So it's natural for us to tend to desire to love the world more than to love God or love others. And it's also very easy for us to love self more than to love others. And so there's lots of interesting stories about people who have you ever followed the threads in Facebook? I think Facebook started or maybe they bought a new company, or they started something called Threads. It's more like they're trying to copy Twitter and enabling people to share thoughts and have conversations with people that they don't even know. And you find a lot of stories in that where people are mostly thinking about themselves and what is good for them rather than what is good for those who are around them. And I was thinking about maybe sharing a few of these that I've been looking at recently, and there's lots of different people who focus on me rather than on others. So let me read you one real quick, if I could. My girlfriend and I have been together for 5 years, and we were hanging out one night, and she got a little suspicious who I was texting. I didn't tell her right away, of course, and this made her more suspicious, and she accused me of texting another female. In reality, it was just a male friend of mine. And so he says I gave her my phone to see, then I asked if I could see her phone. And she was so skeptical of me, and she was hesitant at first and even laughed, and finally she caved and opened her phone immediately to her messages. And the phone was handed to me. I scrolled briefly up and down, didn't see anything that stood out. And then I asked if I could see her Snapchat, Instagram. And at this point, you could tell she was getting nervous. And so long story short, she had been texting a guy, and she had given him her number. And she was just like, well, he didn't have any friends, and he was from overseas. And so I just wanted to help him out. And the guy was very insecure. And he was like, wait a minute, you were accusing me, and you're actually in... See, the problem with that is in 5-year relationship, and their relationship was based upon my feelings and me, how I might respond to your lack of fidelity. We are called upon to love, and when we are called upon to love, we are called upon to help others to be genuinely loving as well. And that's kind of why we're doing this series on love. This is our 16th week in studying the subject of love. And what we need to understand is that love is not about what we can get, how we feel, our benefit from the relationship. Love is about the other person, their feelings, their desires, their dreams. One of the things that we often say in both family seminars as well as marriage counseling is, it is never the job of either the husband or the wife to make his or her spouse happy, because you can't. The more you try to make someone happy, the less happy they are going to be. But what you can do is do everything in your power to help create an environment in which it is easier for the other person to choose to be happy. In other words, true love in marriage focuses on the other person's happiness, not am I happy in this relationship. The beautiful thing about that is that when we focus on the happiness of others, in the end, the result is that we are happy ourselves. And it's what we call reciprocity. So the one loves and the other is a recipient, and then that person loves and the other is a recipient. And so it becomes a very beautiful, harmonious relationship. So we're supposed to spur one another on to love and good deeds. And so in Hebrews chapter 10, verse 22 through 27, and verse 36 through 39, we read, "Let us draw near to God with a sincere heart and with the full assurance that faith brings, having our hearts sprinkled to cleanse us from a guilty conscience, and having our bodies washed with pure water. And then let us hold unswervingly to the hope we profess, for he who promised is faithful. And let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds," not giving up the meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another. And all the more as you see the day approaching, the day of struggles, the day of difficulty, the day of persecution. If we deliberately keep on sinning after we have received the knowledge of the truth, no sacrifice for sin is left, but only a fearful expectation of judgment and of raging fire that will consume the enemies of God. Verse 36, you need to persevere so that when you have done the will of God, you will receive what he has promised. For, quote, in just a little while, he who is coming will come and will not delay. And, quote, but my righteous one will live by faith, and I take no pleasure in the one who shrinks back. But we do not belong to those who shrink back and are destroyed, but to those who have faith and are saved. So 5 observations from this particular passage. We'll just probably get into the first observation today and then be done. But 5 observations. Number 1, God desires that we desire to draw near to him with a sincere heart of faith and a conscience and life that is clean. That's kind of a long observation. But the reality is, God's desire is that we desire. You remember when Paul was talking about giving in Corinthians, and he said, God loves a cheerful giver, and we should give not according to what we aren't able to do, but according to what we are able to do. And we are supposed to not give grudgingly, but willingly and joyfully. You see, God cares about the heart. And so God desires that we desire to draw near to him with a sincere heart of faith and a conscience and a life that is clean. So he says in verse 22, let us draw near to God with a sincere heart and with the full assurance that faith brings, having our hearts sprinkled to cleanse us from a guilty conscience and having our bodies washed with pure water. Delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart, is from the book of Psalms. And for many people, the idea is, oh, if I delight myself in the Lord, he'll give me everything I want. But I think maybe the emphasis of that passage is actually, if our delight is the Lord, then we will receive that which we desire, that which we delight in. We will be able to have a good relationship with God based upon love and sincere faith. And so God desires that we desire to draw near to him. Not just that we draw near to him, but that our desire is that we draw near to him. And not just superficially, but with a sincere heart. And not just a sincere heart, a heart that is based upon faith. And that faith that is lived out in a clean conscience. And a life, resultingly, that is clean. James says it this way in James chapter 4, verse 7 through 10. Submit yourselves then to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Come near to God, and he will come near to you. Wash your hands, you sinners, and purify your hearts, you double-minded. Grieve, mourn, and wail. Change your laughter to mourning and your joy to gloom. Humble yourselves before the Lord, and he will lift you up. So, the heart that is genuine before God, the heart that God rejoices in, is a heart that is based upon a desire to draw near to God. Why? Because God desires that we desire to draw near to him with a sincere heart of faith and a conscience and a life that is clean. Our relationship with God is based upon our love for him, and consequently our love for our fellow man. And in our love for our fellow man, with a clean heart, not a self-centered, selfish pursuit, but a heart that is based upon our love for God, we then spur one another on to love and the resulting good deeds.
Thank you for listening. You can also join us in person or live on Facebook every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Japan time. This has been a ministry of Sakahogi International Grace Baptist Church.